Welcome to High Ground. My name is Tanner, and today we have the first teams qualifying for the playoffs for the Berlin Major, and we also have one team being eliminated, as you can probably tell from the thumbnail. I actually made the thumbnail before I started the video, which I usually don't do. I usually do it after, and because I wanted to figure out what picture I was going to use, because I put Soniqs in the first one before the major, and then I also had the picture of Super and Alamount in the last one, so I didn't want to have Soniqs again for the third time in a row. Even though, yeah, it's obviously the biggest talking point of the day. We'll get there in a second. Yeah, the Berlin Major, the second day of groups, and so the second day overall, we have one more day of groups, and then we have the quarterfinals, semifinals, and grand final to play out, but we'll get there when we get there. Let's take a look at what happened today. Okay, so scrolling down all the way to the groups. Yeah, we'll start in Group A. So as you can see here, the only group to not have any team confirmed and also not have any teams eliminated. So Xset have managed to top the group. So coming into the day, it was Rogue on top, right? They were 2-0. Xset and Nip were 1-1. Damwon was 0-2. So a good day for Xset. They went 2-0. Bad day for Rogue. They went 0-2. Ninjas in... Okay, page got refreshed. I'm not going to refresh it, though. I'm sure... Hopefully it's not pertinent. Ninjas in Pajamas went... I guess they went 1-1. And Damwon also went 1-1. So... Damwon still have a chance. Probably, well, it's very, very unlikely for them to get first. Realistically, they can only get up to second place, so they need either Rogue or Ninjas in Pajamas to really fumble, and then, I mean, probably for the other one, 2 fumbles. So Damwon plays against Rogue and Xset, so I guess they really don't want Nip getting either of these points and points from either of these games. They certainly want, I think they want Xset to beat Nip, and they want maybe this to be an overtime game, I guess, either result, and then they want the full 6 points, of course. So that's what Damwon's looking for. Probably, it looks like they're probably not going to make it, but good for them to actually get one on the board. And well, I mean, if you're hoping for good news about APAC, that will come in a minute. It just turns out Damwon was not the best hope for APAC, and in fact, it was another team. And okay, so Ninja Pajamas, I did predict them to be first place in the group, and that was just sort of a little bit of a Hail Mary pick. I really didn't know how to predict this group. I thought Damwon could have done really well. I just had a feeling they wouldn't, based on the Gamers 8 thing largely, and a little bit of a feeling, and yeah, that was correct. But I also thought Rogue would falter a little more than they have, and well, I was very impressed after the first day, but now after, well, doing very well on the first day, they did very poorly on the second day, so maybe they are falling back into that inconsistent status that they had before, where stage by stage they'd go last place, first place, and well, now, I mean, you know, once again, one of the best performances on the first day of any team in any group, and then one of the worst performances of any team in any group on the second day. So yeah, Xset to the top. They're not quite locked in, but they're pretty likely to go. They probably just need a handful of points to make it. So I mean, good for them. That's at least one NA team that will probably be in the playoffs bracket. And so I guess Nip versus Rogue is probably the most important game for this group coming up in the next day. Given that they're the two in the middle, it's probably one of these two teams that will be taking one of the 2 spots. And yeah, so going head to head with the identical number of points. And I guess, I mean, let's talk about the games that actually happened. Yeah, 7-4. So, I mean, Damwon didn't get destroyed like they did in the first 2 games, but still only 4 rounds isn't phenomenal. Nip taking a close game over Rogue, and both these games just happened to be on bank. And we'll look at stats, I think, at the end. I just thought of that because Pino I think he has one of the highest ratings in the tournament at the moment, maybe top 5, and so showed up big, helped Nip take down Rogue. And then Damwon, yeah, a close game against Nip on Skyscraper, so maybe teams will be hesitant to go to Skyscraper going forward against Damwon. I think maybe, well, I guess maybe this makes their map pool look a little bit better, but I think Damwon in general has a little bit of a map pool issue. It's a little bit smaller compared to some of the other teams. And then finally, yeah, Xset taking down Rogue pretty handily. The stats for this one, I think, were extremely lopsided, especially in the entry kill department, and is Kino actually the MVP here in terms of the fantasy draft. I think if you were picking a support player, I think most of the hard support players are just like pretty bad picks based on the system, but if you went with Kino or Souls, those are probably the 2 best, and I think maybe I'm spacing on one more, but those were certain at this point in time. I think those were certainly the best pickups. Souls being pretty expensive, Kino being very cheap. So if you did get him, I mean, good for you. It's working out very well at the moment. And okay, so that's that group. Let's go on to Group B. Yeah. And I guess just to establish a little bit of a timeline, I think it was Elevate, first team to qualify, then FaZe, and then W7M, and then Soniqs were eliminated. So just if you didn't watch any of the games, if you weren't keeping track of it, I think that is the order in which the things progressed. So we'll just talk about Group B, even if it's a little bit out of order. Yeah, FaZe Clan 4-0, and I mean W7M also 4-0, but W7M also a much a better round count, 28-12. They've been destroying, and we'll see a very big destruction. One of the most lopsided games we've seen certainly was the last game of W7M. But okay, for now, yeah, FaZe Clan, let's talk about the Sandbox game. Soniqs, I mean, they didn't play badly this tournament. I mean, pretty close games, 6-8 here, 4-7 here, and they had two more games to play still, 7-5, 7-4. So they never got crushed. I mean, they got at least 4 rounds in any game that they played, and then they had an overtime game, a max regulation game. They just let too many things slip, and maybe that's just like the current NA curse, just letting a lot of the rounds slip away. I think certainly Astralis this was happening to them as well. They would get good advantages, and then they would be up 4v3 or 4v2 or 2v1, whatever it was. They got clutched on too many times, and it cost them too many rounds. And when you're playing best of ones, I mean, if that happens once or twice, it probably sways the match. I mean, just look at this. If you get clutched on 2 times in the Sandbox game, if that didn't happen, maybe you won 7-5. So yeah, I'm really sad to see Soniqs going home, and unfortunately, as a lot of people were hoping for, it was G2 to fully eliminate Soniqs from being able to make the playoffs. And again, Soniqs has 2 more games to play. They would still like to get third place in the group to secure more SI points, but again, they're not going to the playoffs, so very sad there. But good for Sandbox. I think I did underestimate APAC overall, and maybe a lot of that was because I thought Damwon didn't look that good at Gamers 8, and if the sentiment was true that Damwon really was the best team from APAC and everyone else was a decent bit behind them, then that really didn't bode well for APAC. But so even though Damwon was the first seed, maybe they just weren't actually the best APAC team coming into the tournament. It certainly doesn't look like it, but even the 3rd and 4th seed maybe have had better showing. So yeah, Sandbox, they did get this is their first win, and then they don't win versus FaZe, but they do have a close game. So they played pretty well overall. I mean, 2 very close games against FaZe, and then the G2 game they got kind of slapped, and then they won against Sonic. So yeah, pretty good for them. I definitely underrated them. And I mean, a lot of that is I didn't say APAC will definitely be bad. I just thought they would be bad if I had to choose one of the inevitabilities, one of the possibilities, I should say. Okay, and so yeah, FaZe decisive win over G2, and I mean, this is sort of the result I think Soniqs were looking for at this point in time. So then if Soniqs went on to win versus G2, they had a good chance to snag that 2nd spot, but was not to be. So yeah, that's how it went down. Citizen having a pretty good tournament overall, did quite well in this game. One round he actually, this was like the last game of the day, one of the last games of the day, he went for an ace, and then Yeti almost reverse aced. He almost pulled out a 1v5 or 1v4 or something. It came down to a 1v1, I think, and he just barely lost it. So that would have been poetry in motion, but not to be, I suppose. So yeah, that's Soniqs going home, that's FaZe going to the playoffs, and G2 most likely going to the playoffs, unless Sandbox does really well and G2 does really badly. So this will be a very important match. After this match probably will confirm G2, but again, if G2 does lose here and Sandbox already won here, then G2 is probably going to need to play their heart out against FaZe. We'll see. Okay, Group C, W7M locks in, and they are, I guess, the best performing team of the tournament thus far. They haven't dropped a game. They've only dropped 12 rounds over the course of 4 maps, so an average of like 7-3. Really, really good stuff. And I mean, they're just making the supposed group of death look a bit silly. And so Gaming Gladiators have not gotten a win yet, unfortunate for them, but they did take 2 games to overtime, so they're playing pretty well. So similar to Sandbox, like they're playing pretty well. They're just a little bit behind, or they're just falling a little bit short. But I have been impressed in the showings from the 3rd and the 4th seeds from Apex. So yeah, W7M takes down Wolves 7-3. They take down Oxygen 7-1. So I don't remember for sure. Is this the first 7-1 we've seen? So, no, okay. Nip handed out a 7-1 there, and I don't think we've seen a 7-0. Another 7. Okay, so two other 7-1s and no 7-0. So one of the most decisive games, but this was probably thought to be a game that was going to be quite close. And maybe you shouldn't take W7M to Villa. I think Auction's decent on Villa. I mean, well, they must be decent enough if they were confident to take W7M, but no, they got absolutely slapped. And yeah, W7M looks to be one of the tournament favorites. Maybe, depending on how the bracket lines up, we could even see the Copa Elite 6 Grand Final rematch in the grand final of this tournament, and that was W7M versus FaZe. FaZe won that, so that would be kind of crazy to see. It's not that exciting watching 2 teams from the same region in the grand final, but because of that rematch status, it could be kind of cool. They do look like, I think, probably the strongest teams in the tournament at the moment. And okay, so Oxygen took down Gaming Gladiators. Decent showing from the Gladiators. They got 4 rounds, but so not a beatdown, but not as close as it could have been. And then an even closer game versus Wolves. They did let this one slip away, if I remember right. I think maybe I'm misremembering. I think it was Gladiators on match point, and then Wolves pushed it, and then they ran away with it. Mowgli's been phenomenal this tournament, especially this game. I think he dropped like 22 kills, quite a lot of kills. And yeah, he is, I mean, well, the team is structured in a way to really support him, to really enable him, but he has really been popping off. Very impressive player. And yeah, a little bit of a lukewarm performance at Charlotte, but it was a brand new team, and I think they just got the org. So now things are falling into place, and Wolves look pretty good, but I guess maybe just not as good as W7M. And then yeah, again, this game a beatdown. So that locked in W7M, and it's probably Wolves taking this other spot, but I guess Gladiators or Oxygen could take it. Oxygen more likely because they have one more point. And for the final day, yeah, it's entirely possible this could come down to a win and in. So if W7M smoke Wolves again, which is entirely possible, W7M still needs to lock in first place. Wolves could take first place from them, so they need like a point or two to lock that in. But because they're already secure for playoffs, they might not be playing as hard as they have been. So we'll see what happens there. But okay, so say Oxygen takes the 3 points versus Gladiators, say W7M beats down Wolves, and then Oxygen versus Wolves. This could be a win, and this could be quite an exciting game. So that's definitely one to look forward to on the final day. And then finally, we have Group D here. So, I mean, in terms of predictions, I guess a lot of people probably did pick Elevate to get second place in the group. I don't think anybody imagined Astralis was going to struggle this hard. And they're on, like, I think mathematically, just... The estimate is like 11% or something for them, which is really not good. But I mean, if we look at the games, how does it actually look like it's going to break down for them? So if they beat M&M again, which they didn't do easily, they had to win in overtime. But say they get the full 3 points versus M&M, they could also do it versus Furia. And so if Elevate beats down the other two teams, I guess it's possible. So Astralis is the team that does not have to play Elevate again. So that bodes well for them. Yeah, they just pretty much need the full 3 points versus M&M and Furia, and the other teams to not get points. And that's entirely possible. Furia had a massive fall off. They were 2-0, right? They won 2 games on Border yesterday, and then they didn't get to play Border today, so they didn't win a game. Maybe Furia is not going to be advancing in this tournament. Maybe Border was their really strong wildcard map, and now that teams are aware of that, maybe they will be able to shut down Furia once again. So we'll have to see. M&M, I guess, has a similar chance, but they have a harder path that they have to take down Astralis and especially Elevate. So we'll see. I guess I was wrong about M&M. I still do think that they're a team with quite a lot of potential. I guess they just need some more time. And and they're not out of the tournament, but it seems like they just need some more time. Maybe they need a roster change. I don't know if that's totally clear. They're sort of scrapping with these teams. They got the one win. They got an overtime loss, and then they put up pretty good fights in EUL. But again, do keep in mind they are pretty new to T1 Siege, and again, like, I have high hopes for them, but I guess maybe it was just not their time just yet. So I still think a team to keep your eye on in the future. But yeah, I guess I got my hopes a little bit too high for this particular event. And then, I mean, talking about Astralis again, yeah, they're a scrappy team, and they definitely faced adversity this stage in the NAL, getting off to a pretty poor start, not looking like they were even going to make top 4, and then ending in first place, which is super impressive. So we've seen them breeze by pretty much everybody in stage 1. We've seen them backs against the wall, make it back to first place in stage 2, and now, backs against the wall again. Let's see if they can do it. I think it's possible. It's quite a daunting task, but they definitely have the capability. But this is not the performance I myself or anybody expected of them at this tournament. Maybe what I said before, where they have a really big target on their back, maybe that's just was a much more important factor than I gave it credit for. So, and then, obviously Furia is in the best position. If they can get just, I guess, one win, if they get the full 3 points, they're guaranteed. And they can do that against Elevate, they can do that against Astralis. And so this one also could be quite exciting. If Elevate wins these 2 games, Astralis wins this game, this could come down to a win and in between Astralis and Furia. So that could be another really good one to watch. The previous match between the two was close-ish, but again, this was on Border. I think Astralis kind of likes Border, but I guess Furia likes it quite a lot. So if we go to a different map, we'll see how these two teams face, how their showdown goes down. Okay, so I guess that's it for this. I don't know that there's anything else I want to talk about on here, so we'll just go quickly look at some stats. Okay, so Fantasy on top. This isn't something you see too often. He usually has pretty good stats, but I think he usually has like a similar number of kills and deaths, a similar number of entry kills, entry deaths. He's usually not this positive, but I mean, you'll notice his survival is still tied for the lowest in the tournament, even though he is the highest rated player, which just feels a little bit strange, but very high cost. The best entry differential in the tournament, very impressive. Tied for, it looks like, the most kills, unless somebody has an insane number. No. Where's Mowgli? Is he? Yeah, okay. Mowgli on the same number, but he just has more entry deaths. And then in terms of KD, Citizen going crazy, over a 2.0. Grixer fell off a little bit. Stats remain pretty good. So unless he has a massive fall in the last 2 days, he might end as one of the best statted players in the tournament, even though he doesn't go to the playoffs. And okay, back to the rating again. Yeah, Cyber, he's playing phenomenally. I mean, 11-3 on the entry, almost a 4.0 there, close-ish to a 2.0 here, plus 23. Extremely impressive. He is looking like he could potentially lead his team back to another championship, just like he did at the Sweden Major. Not to say that he was the only factor, but he did end up being the MVP of that tournament and set even a kill record, if I remember right. And yeah, just super impressive, playing really, really well here. I think he's only had like one not super good game, but every other game he's just been on fire. And looks like it's Fantasy and Mowgli, the two highest kill players at 54. A few players already above 50 over the course of and let's see, KPRs, I guess it is Fantasy on top. So yeah, Fantasy really killing it, and I think a little bit of a fall off in the second day. His team didn't do nearly as well, but I mean, his stats didn't really suffer for it, so we'll see how he does in the final day. And okay, yeah, Pino, I think I mentioned him before. He is here in the top 5. So yeah, it's, I mean, a lot of the usual suspects. You have a lot of the really prolific fraggers: Fantasy, Citizen, Cyber, Grixer, Pino, Mowgli, Volps, and then you have Kino. Good for him, you know, +3, +6, 7 plants, tied for the most plants in the tournament, along with Dream. And Kino, it's looking like he has a much better shot to go to the playoffs than Dream and Oxygen do. So Kino could end up being the plantingest player. And I guess Souls, a few plants here, Shinka, and so again, as I said before, I guess Mark, yeah, doing quite well as a support player, but it looks like Souls and Kino, the two best performing support players at the moment. And I guess I'll just scroll through. Oh yeah, J9O, let me group it by teams. I think he's a decent bit above everybody. I did just want to mention about him. I'd say he's probably one of my favorite players in NAL, and thus one of my favorite players in the world. Yeah, he's just doing much better than anyone else on his team. Forrest is +1, but J9O only positive player on entry, really high KPR. He's doing really well. I think he's had quite a good story to follow, where he used to play way back when. He played with with Iconic, he played with NJR, and like Lags, and one other player I think was a team at one point. And it was Iconic and NJR that a lot of people were really excited about, and they have been quite good. Iconic maybe is been a little bit inconsistent lately, but he's generally very good. NJR, usually very good. J9O has become just one of the absolute pictures of consistency in NAL and in the world, I think. So he's sometimes a little bit quiet, but even when he's quiet, his stats are usually decent, and then sometimes he does absolute pop-off, and I guess he's having a pretty pop-off tournament, but we'll see what happens. He might be going home in the groups. I just wanted to shout him out. I just think he's a very good player, and I do think he goes a little bit unnoticed because you do have very flashy players on this team, particularly Forrest and Iconic at the moment. And okay, so yeah, I think that's all I want to talk about. Hopefully, there were a couple things I was thinking about talking about earlier. Hopefully I actually got around to all of them. In terms of my fantasy draft, it's doing okay. I think, I have Forrest, who's doing okay, might get eliminated. I have Tyrant doing okay, might get eliminated. I have Herds doing also okay, probably is advancing, so he'll have more, definitely is advancing. They're already locked in. I have Grixer, eliminated, but I guess 2 more games to play. He did get me a lot of points already, so pretty happy with that, even if they're not advancing. And did I pass Xset? I have Spirits as well, who's not doing especially well, but is probably also advancing. So yeah, doing okay. None of my players doing terribly, and then Grixer doing very well, not advancing. Okay, I'm just rehashing stuff at this point. So okay, questions, comments, concerns, corrections, requests, any of that stuff, leave them below in the comments. I've been getting quite a lot of comments lately, and I like interacting with people. Let me know your thoughts on any matters, and we can have a little bit of a comment. Also, follow me on Twitter. I'll probably put that at the beginning of the video again. I got a handful of followers. I tweet some stuff out. I don't know, you can tweet at me if you want to. And other than that, a like and a subscription are always appreciated, and I will catch you guys in the next video.